Alright, so we're holding paid tests. What I decided to do is that since Yud Gimel is a very important point in this, because from that point on, Mechaber discusses changes that occur after a certain pattern has been established. So it's important a little bit to review some klalim, some rules. I think that will help us understand the following seif. Just to clarify a point that perhaps was not made clear enough last time, we did speak about how Veset She'eno Kavua has certain concerns with it. In other words, that a woman, you can say, has a disadvantage in that she has to look out for a certain day. The truth of the matter is that even with the Veset Kavua, which you began to ask me about, if in fact she did see at another time, that can be also an issue for concern. In other words, even though she does have a Veset Kavua, we have to analyze this one-time incident. What does it mean? Does it mean that there's a change about to happen or not? So we do have to be concerned about that. So that's one of the things, one of the details that we're going to be seeing now. How does a change affect a woman if she has a Veset Kavua or not Kavua? So it would be not accurate to say that just because she has a Veset Kavua, she doesn't have to be concerned at all. It is definitely helpful that the fact that she has a Veset Kavua, that she doesn't have to be choishesh for other days. But in the event that something does occur out of the standard, it may be reason to concern. Maybe it's going through a change, maybe it's a one-time thing, and it will depend also when she saw it. You see it earlier, you see it later, or what happens if she just skipped a period? What does that mean? So some of these scenarios are actually brought down in Halacha, so I don't really have to read them all out to you right now, but it's important that we go through the klalim. Some basic rules. Rule number 1, every time a woman sees blood, every time she has I guess you can call it incident, it can immediately bring about 3 chashashos, 3 concerns. That incident could bring about a Veset HaChodesh, based on this one incident. It could of course affect the Veset HaFlaga, which is the amount of time that has elapsed from last time, and it could affect the Oina Beinonis. In other words, every Riyah, every time a woman sees, can affect one or all 3 of these areas. What else? Every time she also has to consider whether this new incident uproots any of the incidents that she's had before. Why? Because any chashash that is not uprooted, if we determine that it's not uprooted, then now she has to be concerned about 2 days. So these are I guess guiding lines that are important to always keep in mind, is that an incident can establish a date, and there's 3 possible dates to consider, right? There's Oina Beinonis, there's the Haflogo, and there is the Chodesh, the day of the month. The other concern is that does this time that the woman had this incident, does that affect the last date that she was concerned about? So we've been saying all along that a woman who does not have a Veset Kavua, all you need is for one time to uproot the last date. Generally speaking, that's what happens. One time is sufficient. She does not have a Veset Kavua, so yes, she's at a disadvantage. She looks out for 3 potential dates. However, after she looked out and nothing happened, it's gone, usually, right? So an incident brings about one of these 3, plus an incident has to be weighed with incidents of the past. Does this new incident cancel or do away with the incident of the past? These are just 2 important ideas that we need to consider. All right, in Sif Yud Gimel, we will see a long Roma, and a Mechaber, of course, and we will learn from it various klalim. So maybe we'll go through the klalim and then we'll read it inside. The first klal, which is the Mechaber is going to mention it, and it's from the Ravid, is that what we've learned so far, the 3 re'iyos, 3 incidents, establish a pattern. In other words, if they are regular, at certain intervals, at a certain time of the month, that's only in condition that it's in the same oina. Very important condition is that, okay, 3, okay, there's a pattern, okay, they're equal. No, we're going to be learning now that in order for it to really be a pattern, it's not enough that it's every 28 days. It's not enough that it's a certain day of the month. It also has to be in the same oina. What's oina? Same night or same day. In other words, depending on what she's been seeing. If she's been seeing at night, well, in order for it to be consistent, it always needs to be at night. Seeing during the day, in order for it to be consistent, it always, or those three, have to be during
day or night? Or
Exactly. No. That's what oina means. A 12-hour period. And we've encountered this term before, whether it was with the Or Zarua or in other scenarios, that the oina can make a difference. An oina could be basically a different day. Even though it's within 24 hours, it could be a different night. Why do I say could be? Because if, let's say a woman sees every 28 days, and she sees during the day, all right, this one time she saw on the 27th or on the 26th, at night or day, whatever, but the blood continued to flow into the 28th. Does that mean she did not see on the 28th? No. We briefly spoke about it before. It still means that she has seen on the 28th. But she got an early start. This could make a difference if whether we consider this Akira Saveset or not. She's not uprooting, she's not making a big change in her Veset because she's still seeing into her regular period. On that day, she's still seeing. Remember, most periods last a number of days. So this is important, especially when we're dealing with Akira Saveses, and here too, perhaps. What if she continues to see? Just that the beginning, however, is much more important than when it comes to Akira. When it comes to Akira, you can claim, well, she saw on that day. But when it comes to Veset, establishing Veset, it's important the day it happens, the day it begins. Because that's where we count from. We're going to be counting a flaga from the first day. So therefore, the first day it happens is going to be important. Just that the question is, well, what happens if it continues a few days? Well, that could be significant too. If she's still seeing on the day she's used to seeing, that means she's still seeing. You can't say, well, she stopped seeing. She's now getting it earlier. So it could make a difference in Akira Sabes, at least for now. I think that's sufficient to say. That with Akira, it may make it, all right. But, as we're going to be learning inside the Seif, for it to be a real pattern, it has to be in the same oina. Why? Why would that make a difference? Because apparently oina is also a goyrem. Oina, the one a woman sees it, whether it's the night or a day, is also a factor in bringing about the re'iyah. How do we know it's a factor? Because we've already learned the halacha. Once the time that she's used to seeing arrives, she's choshesh for the entire oina. Day means 6 to 6. We don't say, well, 3-hour period, 3-hour window. No, we say the whole thing. And some say even more, but we're not going to talk about the chumrah right now. Oina means the whole oina. So since we're choishish for the whole oina, it could be any time. Let's say she's supposed to get it during the day today, but she hasn't gotten it yet. So what? The day's not over. She can still get it, right? So she has to be concerned the whole day. It can still happen. She has to check herself too on that. If it's a veset kavuam, right? She cannot be with her husband if she didn't check herself. So if it's supposed to be sometime during the day we're choshesh for the whole oina, you see from that the oina is somewhat a factor. The whole oina is a good. So therefore, the Mechaber is going to tell us that in order to establish a pattern of 3 times, they all have to be during the same, whether it's the night or the day. There's a diyun that I saw in the Achronim, a little discussion in the Achronim. Now, what happens if you're talking about a woman who has a pattern of haflaga? Now, she's noticed a pattern that every 26 days or period. In that pattern, how is a haflaga established? We had 4 times, right? You had 3 haflagas plus the first time. What if that first time was at night, but the other 3 lapses of time were during the day? Is that okay? Or does the first one also have to be? So the Niddah Yehuda, I think, says, the first one is an anchor. It's not that important here. We just use it as an anchor point to figure out the lapse of time. The fact is that the 3 were during the day. That's sufficient. It knows that she's established a pattern of seeing, even though the first time, as you know, the first of the 4 was at night, that's okay. I think some disagree with that, but I saw that it's brought down la halacha like the Niddah Yehuda. So even though here the Mechaber is going to tell us they all have to be considered in the same oina, if it's a haflaga and the first one is different, it's a night and the rest of the day are fine. Just going to read it a little bit outside. The Ramah is going to quote the Ramban here, and he's going to tell us first about an isha that does not have a veset kavua. That she has to be concerned about Veset HaChodesh and Veset HaFloga. All right, we know that these are the very important dates to consider. But for some reason, and we don't know why, he doesn't mention Oina Beinonis. So this is the famous Shach that we talked about earlier on. That says, you see, from this, you learn that there's no need for 3 dates. It's really only 2 days. Veset HaChodesh is Oina Beinonis. And how many days do you have to wait? You wait 30 days. Just that this 30 days makes a difference if it's a full month, 30 days, or 29 days. In other words, if it's a full month, in reality it turns out to be that it's on the 31st day when she has to be Chodesh. But if it's a Chodesh Choser, then it's the 30th day. But it's basically the same thing. So when they said 30 days, they meant in a full month, the 30 days later. That was the Shach, in explaining that all you need to be concerned with is 2 dates and not 3. The Chavas Das is the one that said that you need all 3. Just that he says that Oina Beinonis is always on the 31st day. Taz holds that you also need to be concerned about Oina Beinonis and that it's the 30th day. So you have a Floga, you have Chodesh, and you have Oina Beinonis. So this is basically the Machlokes that we discussed earlier on. The Shach is the one that says there's only 2 days. Oina Beinonis is Oina HaChodesh. Everybody else pretty much says you need all 3, or you need to be concerned about. And sometimes it's, of course, extra days. Sometimes not. Yeah. On the 31st. Yeah. 31st day. That's Oina Beinonis for him. That was the only difference. He holds Oina Beinonis not 30, but 31st. As far as Veset She'ena Kavua, all we know is that even though she has to look out for all 3 days, it's nekar with one time, right? In other words, comes along the date that she's choishish for and it didn't happen, nothing happens, it's nekar. It's uprooted. It's gone. However, on that day she does need a bdika. What happens since it's a Veset She'ena Kavua and she did not do a bdika? So you may say, well, since she didn't check herself, how does she know that she didn't have it? We're about to get rid of that day for the next month, right? But she didn't check herself. As long as she didn't see any blood coming out, feel, any blood coming out, even though she didn't check herself b'di'evet, we say it's oiker. Why? Because she didn't feel any blood coming out. So of course, lechatchila, she has to check herself. She didn't feel anything, b'di'evet, she didn't check herself, it's still gone. Next month around, on that day, it was choishish last month, she no longer has to be choishish. How do we have, for example, Akiras Veset HaChodesh? Let's take the example of Veset HaChodesh, that she sees it at a certain day of the month. Comes along that same day of the month, let's say the 5th day of the month, and she doesn't see. It's gone. The next month, she doesn't have to look out for that same day of the month. However, as we said earlier, if she did see on the day before, continuing to see on that day, that's not constitute an Akira. Very important point to remember that, because even though she started earlier, she's still seeing on that day. So the Veset HaChodesh would still be a concern the following month, because she's still technically seeing. All right. So far it's easy. Now it becomes a little complicated. So what did we say? We spoke about the typical Veset HaChodesh being uprooted with a Veset She'ena Kavua on a one-time basis. But what happens with a Floga? A Floga could mean every 20 days, every 25 days, it could be even more than 30 days. It could be a short Haflaga, it could be a long Haflaga. And here it's where it begins to be a little complicated, where you have a lot of machlokes. I would prefer not to use the word machlokes, it sounds too harsh. There's argument. There are several opinions as to how to deal with different kinds of Haflaga. We're talking about a Haflaga She'ena Kavua, of course. We're going to talk about something that's Kavua a little bit later. How do you undo an Haflaga She'ena Kavua? One time? Well, it's not so simple. So let's take an example. A woman that sees every 25 days, sometimes 26 days, sometimes 28 days, it's not Kavua, right? So last time it was 25 days, and this time around, she waited, nothing happened, of course, after 25 days. Boom! She sees it after 29 days. So what now? What is she choishish for the next month? She doesn't have a Veset Kavua. She's choishish for 29 days. The longer Haflaga, according to everybody, replaces the short Haflaga, the shorter Haflaga. But what happens if he always had more or less a longer Haflaga, 27, 29, 30, and all of a sudden this month it was shorter. Last time she had it was 2 days, And now she had it after 22. Okay, you follow me? This is where it begins to be a little bit heated. She always sees every 26, 27, and then she sees after 32 days, no problem. Her new chashash will be 32 days later. Yeah, if it became longer, no problem. The longer haflaga replaces the shorter haflaga according to everybody.
Time already?
Yeah. She said, well, it has no vesa kavua. She had it 25 days, and now she had it 29 days. The 29 replaces the 25, no problem. It's a new haflaga. It's a longer haflaga. Good. Watch out 29 days from now. That could be when she's getting it. But no, she saw it Nisan. Right now we're in Iyar. She saw it Nisan after 32 days. In Iyar, she saw it after 20. Less. Oh no. What's going on? Is it possible that she has a veset toch veset? That's really part of the big question here. Is seeing it more than once in a month? Does she have a lot of blood? That's some of the questions in this big diyun over here. When she's seeing a shorter haflaga than the last time. So we have three opinions in the Poiskin. We're going to see the Ramah, and the Taz goes along with him, that yes, she saw a short period, but you know what? We're still going to be concerned about the big haflaga she had in this.
Same month or the following?
No, not the following month. Right now in Sivan, Nisan was 32 days, Iyar was 22 days. She very short haflaga. You know what? That short haflaga, she has a lot of damim Yeserim. She has more blood than the average woman. She just sees a lot. And we still have to be choishesh of the old haflaga. This new, shorter haflaga was not oiker. It didn't replace the long one. It happens. She just has a lot of blood.
So it's suspecting both.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So we're not just saying forget about it.
No, we don't forget about it. No. But we don't either forget about the other one.
Right.
In other words, the short one will not replace the bigger one. We said before, the long one replaces the short one. But for a short one to replace the long one, no, it could possibly be that this is a freak thing. It happens. Mikre, as they call it. Mikre. Incidental. Incidental? Yeah, incidentally, right? But she still has her old long...
Accident.
Yeah. She still has her long haflaga. We have to be choishes and sivan. That's what the Ramah says, the Taz, over here. Until when? Until the typical situation for a woman who has the best Sheinu Kavua, until that haflaga comes and she doesn't see anything. Oh, she didn't see anything after 32 days in Sivan, that 32 days is gone. And whenever she sees it, next time, then we'll figure out what her new haflaga is. But to stop being choishesh for it, you have to be choishesh for it once. It didn't arrive, it's gone. So here, just because she had a small period within a big period, in other words, I call it small period, in other words, a smaller amount of time, it could be a freak accident. Why? Because she has damim yeserim. She's a woman that has a lot of blood somehow, and she sometimes has maybe 2 periods in 1 month. It could be, it's not a regular thing, of course, so it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean there's a change here, and she therefore has to be still concerned next month around to her old, longer haflaga, and on top of that, she has new dates to be considered. She has a new chodesh, day of the month. She has the haflaga of from Nisan to Iyar, which is only 20 days to consider. She has to still consider the new things too. Oh yeah, because she doesn't know, right? Remember, everything's a suffix. So she has to consider the new as well as the old. But the old is only the haflaga, okay, for the time being. She has a new day of the month. She has to consider that. She has a new oina beinanis, because the oina beinanis is from the last time she saw. So she has the old, the one haflaga, and she has those 3 dates. Most poskim don't hold like this, as we will soon see. The Shach holds haflaga ketzara, okeret haflaga aruka. The Shach holds a short lapse, a short period, the amount of time, replaces the old one. It's possible. This is the new one. This is a change from what she was used to seeing. It's sufficient of a change to replace the old haflaga. So right now she saw after 22 days, she should only watch out 22 days from now, not 32 days anymore. She just saw it after 22 days. Well, next time, watch out after 22 days. That's what the Shach says. Come along, a lot of Achronim, beginning with the Crazy Placey and others, and he'll say like this. We don't hold that the incident that she had after 22 days is tosefet damim, that she has more blood. In other words, we don't just treat it like it's just more blood. No, it is significant. It is significant. But we also don't hold like the Shach. The haflaga ketzora is not oikeres. In other words, it does not replace. So they have an in-between sheet of sorts that says basically what? You now consider the 32 days from the time last time that she had a period. In other words, what she saw blood after 22 days is not just more blood. It's an incident. It is. She just saw it. She just had it. You're going to calculate from that point on. But what are you going to calculate? 32 days, not 22. Because they don't hold that incident, however significant it may be, replaces. They hold like the Ramah in a sense. The small period does not replace the big one. On the contrary, the big one is still a concern, but you count the big one from the incident that she just had. You don't count it from the original Nisan. She had Nisan. She had a short period sometime afterwards in Iyar, and she's going to have it, of course, in Sivan.
So this is the new anchor point now for one, according to these, yeah?
According to these, you still have the old one. But when do you have it from? When do you calculate it from?
From the shorter one.
From the shorter period.
But you don't want it.
No, you don't. Because the shorter does not replace the older one.
Well, replace not, but it's accommodation.
Right.
So you're saying it's either.
Right. I'm sorry, they do say she still has to be concerned. She still has to be concerned about those other days because they represent a day of the month.
So she has two, and both
Yes,
of them
yeah.
are counted in one.
Right. Yeah, she still has to be concerned about all of those. So yes, they're still concerned, but the way you calculate the old haflaga is what's different than from the Roma. Right? The long haflaga you count from the last time she had blood. But all the other dates that she saw are still valid to be choishes for them in the future, just in case. Yeah, it could happen, right? So whenever something like this happens, that there is a short within a long lapse of time, there may be some additional dates to watch out for. All right. The only question was, has it replaced? No, not necessarily. It hasn't replaced. You still have the old one to be concerned with. It could be just it happened. Okay, so that was with Veset Sheino Kavua. Now let's go to a few rules with Veset Kavua, and then we'll read it inside. With Veset Kavua, the rule is that Eino Nekar, what's a Veset Kavua? It says she has established a pattern after 3 times. And this pattern cannot be Nekar until she sees 3 other times that are different. This is a little bit vague. What does it mean that she saw 3 times? Do all 3 have to be the same? What if she sees 3 times, but they're not the same? But it's no longer her old Veset. What would you say to that? Whenever a woman sees 3 different times, she's obviously becoming, or establishing, I should say, a Veset Sheino Kavua. Because that's what this is. If she sees 3 other times exactly the same, then she's establishing a new, perhaps, Veset Kavua. So either way, those changes have the ability or have the power to uproot, to cancel the original old pattern. But there's a big difference. Sees a completely new exact pattern, right, every 20 on a certain day of the month, versus she's just no longer seeing her old, but she is seeing some other day, but those other days could be random. The difference is that if she establishes a brand new pattern of, let's say, every 28 days, did it 3 times, in order for her to ever go back to her original pattern of seeing every 25 days, she would have to first uproot that 3 times, right? Because it's established. For her to go back to her old pattern after on days that are not the same is not a problem. One time, she can go back, if she goes back to seeing what she's been used to seeing a whole year, then for some reason the next 3 months they were off. But after that she went back to see it on the same pattern that she historically, or whoever knows how long, was seeing, that's fine. She's able
to continue a pattern is to continue an old pattern.
Yes.
They recruit a new
Yes,
pattern.
right. Now, after 3 times not seeing on her regular pattern, she's obviously doesn't have to be choishish to that pattern. 3 times she didn't. But you can easily go back.
3.
Right, because why? Because it's not really uprooted or replaced by a new pattern.
It's just sleeping.
It's sleeping, deferred, acting up, acting up, yeah.
But you could have one where she has a kavua exactly the same.
Oh.
So then we say it's a new kavua.
Right.
Now, it goes back to what it was historically. Kavua,
Not yet.
she had 3 that what did you say?
Yeah, once she has a new Veset Kavua, which is exact pattern, that has completely eliminated from the history of the books the old pattern. In order for her to go back to anything, even to her old one, she first has to uproot the new one 3 times.
Another question is,
Right,
when you said be in the same ona,
right.
if there's a different day, but a different ona,
Right.
or let's say it's
No, it throws it off. As we're going to see it inside, it will throw it off.
even though
Even though Ona will throw it off, yeah.
Is he asking to the old cycle, or is the answer the same?
Establishing a cycle.
Establishing a cycle.
In establishing it, it's going
But
to
now
throw
to
it off.
continue the old cycle would also have to be the same.
Of
No,
course,
yeah.
of course,
So-
yeah.
so
It
it's-
throws it
the
off.
answer would be the same regardless of whether
Oh,
you come
yes,
up-
yes, you're right. It would throw it off. Right. Unless, remember what we said before, it starts early, continues on into that day. Then technically, it still has arrived, or it's there on that. But if it's late, then it doesn't count. All right, so in switching over to Veset Kavua, we know that in order to uproot a pattern that's established 3 times, you need at least 3 times to uproot it. All right, now, even though, remember, this is going to be later on in the scene. I'm just giving the rules right now so that everything will be clear as we learn it inside. All right, let's say she did not uproot it 3 times. She has a Veset Kavua now we're talking about, and she had to change 1 month. 1 month, instead of seeing it every 28 days, one month she saw it after 27 days. And this could be it happened twice, but not 3 times. It could happen once or twice. What now? Now she has a problem. She did not uproot it 3 times. So she still has to be concerned the next month around for her regular Veset that comes in. Plus these new dates that came up, the new Haflaga. She has to look out. Maybe she is going to be getting it on the next 27 days later, and she is perhaps establishing a new pattern. So she has to look out for that. Remember, we're choishish that this could be leading to something. This could be establishing a new pattern. So she's going to have to look out for that. And according to the Sefer Sidrei Tahara I saw, he also says that the halacha that she has to be choishish for the day of the month as well, whenever that comes out. So here she's like no longer a woman that has a Veset Kavua, but she is. She has more in her hands. She has now, be still concerned about her Veset Kavua because that has not been uprooted. And now she has another day or so to look out for, just in case that could be establishing the new pattern. What she doesn't have to worry about is Oina Beinonis. Why? According to most opinions, most poskim, because she has a Veset, she's still called an Isha of a Veset Kavua. And a woman who has a Veset Kavua does not have to become an Oina. What's Oina Beinonis? Oina Beinonis was intended for a woman who doesn't have a regular period. And we say, well, she's going to at least get it once a month, right? So she got it. She's been getting it. And we know more or less when it is. Right? So she doesn't have to worry about it. And some say that this is true even if she hasn't gotten it yet. And 30 days went by. Well, you think, well, she's supposed to get it after 28 days. She hasn't gotten it. Should I wait? Should I look out on the 30th day? No. We hold that since she has a Veset Kavua, even though she didn't get it yet, and it's already 30 days, no, she might get it on the 31st day. She usually has a Veset Kavua. We're not concerned. In other words, we don't have to give her, no, we are concerned, but we don't have to give her that 30 days schedule. That 30-day schedule called Oina Beinonis is for a woman that has no Veset Kavua. At the very least, she has that to look out for because that's like an average. Woman who always gets it on the 32nd day, then you for sure don't have to worry on the 30th. The bigger question is when she gets it before 30, but she didn't get it now. Should I watch out on the 30? No, the 30 was not intended for her. So we don't have to, that's how we hold the halacha. Some of course say she would. Okay, so we talk about a woman that had a change. She has a Veset Kavua and she had a change once or twice. So since it's not 3 times, she still has to be with her Veset Kavua. It's not uprooted. But she has a little bit more to be concerned about, additional days, a new haflaga, because it could be that she's establishing a new pattern. I mean, that's the logic behind it. But she doesn't have to watch out for oina benodis. Let's say she switched many times, 3 or more times, and she's no longer, of course, as a result of that, looking out for her Veset Kuv anymore. If one time, as we said before, she went back to her old Veset, if one time she saw what she used to see in her old Veset Kavua, the Veset Kavua has now reestablished. It means that from now on, she has to look out for that day once again. So sufficient for it to go back once, for her to now have to be worried about that,
Or even after more.
even after many times, because they're sporadic. She has not established a new Veset Kavua. That's what's interesting about this. She has a Veset Kavua all along, and for the next few months she's been seeing at random times. No fixed time. If she once only saw what she was used to seeing, it's enough for her to go back to her original Veset Kavua, which means basically two things. It's a pro. There's a pro and a con. Well, the con means that she basically now has to look out for that new day. Well, she has to look out for Sunday day. It's not really a con. And the pro is that now she doesn't no longer have to be worried about Oina Benonis and Yom HaChodesh and the old Haflaga, because she went back to her old historical Veset. So that's an advantage in a sense, that she gets rid of the other Chashos. It's just that she goes back to her original. Okay, I guess it's more of an advantage than a disadvantage. So even though it only happened once, it's sufficient. Why? Because what she's seeing now is sporadic. When does it really change? As we said before, only if a new, complete pattern of 3 times has been established, then there's no such thing as going back with once. And you need to uproot the new one 3 times before you can establish a new. So that, of course, would make a difference. If there's a new pattern, she would have to first uproot that before she goes back to anything. Okay, however, there's something very interesting. There's a difference between a Veset of Haflaga and a Veset of Yom HaChodesh in one important area. So far we know there are different kinds of ways of figuring out, of calculating the time. All right, but here comes something interesting. At least according to some of the Achronim. A woman has a Veset Kavua lehaflaga every 28 days. The next month, instead of seeing at a different day a change, right? We're talking about changes now. She just didn't see. Okay, remember we're talking about she didn't have it at all. Okay, so now we're done with changes, right? Now look at this kind of a scenario. She has a Veset Kavua, but this time around she just didn't see it. And it's not that she saw it on another day. She skipped a period. This happens. According to the Shach, she no longer has to be concerned with that Haflaga, with the old Haflaga. In other words, let's say she saw it Nisan Pesach, the 15th, comes along. Right now it's Pesach. We're Pesach Shena, days Yore Deah. So let's say, right, she's supposed to see it Tes Vav year. She didn't. We're not Choshesh, says the Shach, that she's going to see it Tes Vav Sivan. You know why? You want to know why? Nobody has that kind of a haflag of 60 days. No, she could see it sometime later, maybe 33rd day, 35 days. I mean, women sometimes they see it a lot later. That could happen.
Up to 60, but not impossible.
Yeah, but we're talking about being choshesh. Of course, everything is possible.
Yeah,
But choshesh, no. What are you going to be choshesh for? She has a Veset Kavua here. So she doesn't have any chashas that we know of right now, except for that day. Comes that day, and she just didn't see it. So in the other scenarios, we had
she completed the cycle of 60 days.
Yeah, for the most part, no.
So that how far?
Remember, unless it's established with dilugim.
Even then, we said that.
But that has to be established. You don't choishes for that.
Then we didn't say it was a best of 30 days
with a skip.
Skipping.
Yeah, but that has to be established for us to realize, to figure that this is really happening. There's no such a chashash. Oh, this is going to be a dilug.
Right. So when you say there's no days, my question is simply chashash of over 30 days, 1 of 30.
Yes.
So where do you stop?
She has a Veset Kavua.
31, 32, you say there's a 9, you still say there's a chashash?
No, I didn't use the word chashash. It could happen.
Okay, but so you don't have a chashash?
There's no chashash for any days. She has a Veset Kavua. No, she doesn't have to worry about any day. In other words, her status is, she can be with her husband, no worry about it. Her day didn't come, it's gone. As far as we know, she skipped it. She has a Veset Kavua. Otherwise, you tell her, hey, lady, check yourself every day. It could still happen. I mean, that's basically what you were saying. If there's a chashash, no, maybe we have to watch out. No, she has the vesed kavua. That's her advantage. It didn't happen. Good for her. All right. Now, so shinuyim, changes, we said before, can cause, I don't want to use the word havoc, but can cause problems of all kinds. Even for women with a vesed kavua, that somehow now she has to worry about other dates. Especially if it's not uprooted. She has to worry about this and perhaps this. But here we have a situation where there's no real shinui. It is a shinui because she didn't see it. But she didn't see anything either. She didn't see it on another day. So if it's a vesed for haflaga, the shach says she doesn't have to worry about that old haflaga comes along Sivan next month. Because what are you going to say? Well, she was supposed to see it on Tesvav Iyar, but she didn't. Well, it could be Tesvav Sivan she'll see it. No. That old haflaga is not there anymore. Because essentially it's really 60 days now. She probably doesn't have such an haflaga of 60. So we don't expect it on the Tesvav Sivan. So if we don't expect it, she doesn't have to be choishish for it. It's gone for that day. The Taz says we are. This is the shach. So machlokes here. Are we choishish for that haflaga or not? She has a vesed kavua. Does she still have to be considered? She just skipped and it can come back. So the Taz says yes. The shach says no. Shach says with haflaga there's no such haflaga. Now, but if it's a vesed kavua liyom hachodesh, she sees every 5th day of the month. This is a type of vesed, right? And this 1 month in Iyar she did not see on the 5th day of the month. She still has to look out on the 5th day of Sivan. The Yom HaChodesh vesed is a lot more powerful. It is a greater cause in bringing about her period, the Meforshim explain, than the haflaga itself, which is interesting. The day of the month is more powerful in bringing about her vesed than a certain amount of days have. Because apparently a certain amount of days, it could vary a little bit somehow. But the day of the month somehow has a certain power. So just because she skipped a certain day of the month does not mean the next day of the month she's no longer have to worry about it.
Day of the month, you're talking about a certain...
Yeah.
Or you're talking about a certain day or the third?
No, I'm talking about the day of the month, the 5th day of the month, the actual date. Okay, so therefore, we're talking about vesed kavua right now. Right? Because remember, vesed sheno kavua, all you need is 1 day to uproot it. It didn't come. Or it came another, it makes no difference. It's gone. Vesed sheno kavua. Why should it come again? Why should it repeat? But a vesed kavua, we expect it to repeat. We expect it to arrive at the same day, or after a certain amount of days. It didn't. But not that it came on another day, which would of course mean that there's some change in the day. No, it just didn't come. Oh, it didn't come. Now what? Well, if it's the day of the month, we do look out, and we are concerned next month that it still may come. With haflaga, the shach says it's a little more lenient. That I don't have to worry about it comes to Sivan, because that would be a long haflaga of 60 days. Well, to say that it's a haflaga of 60 days, that's very unusual. It's not common at all. Why should I be choishish for something like that?
You have to be choishish if it's Yom HaChodesh.
Right, until it's uprooted 3 times. Right? If she, in other words, even with not seeing, it could be uprooted 3 times. So that's a very good point you brought up. In other words, we need to uproot it somehow. Uprooted can be uprooted by 3 times on another day, or actually even any other day, but it's no longer the old day, or not seeing it at all for 3 times. I mean, it has to be 3 times, either way. That we're no longer concerned about the vesed kavua. So it could be other days, the same day, but another day, it was some other day. Or it could be she didn't see it at all. But not seeing it once or twice does not mean that it's gone. It means that it could still be coming back, as opposed to haflaga. With haflaga, the shach says, you don't have to be choishish without haflaga again. So I'm just going to go through it inside. See if you'd gimel, Eina isha kovas la veset, afilu rosa shlosho rosh chodesh zeh, even though she saw on Rosh Chodesh, one after another, consecutive, she will not establish the vesed elam ken yu kulam be'oino achas, unless they're all in the same oino, the same time frame, I guess you can call it, same part of the day, but yom o balayla, day or night. Vimro so sholosh pe'omim bayom, ve'reviz balayla, she saw 3 times, and the 4th one was at night. O sholosh pe'omim balayla, 3 times at night. Ve'reviz bayom, the 4th one during the day. Chosheshet bayom uvalayla. She has to be now concerned bayom uvalayla. Why the layla? Nechshash haveset harishon upnechshash hasheni shu achron. Because she has a veset. She saw it 3 times the same, but the 4th time is different. So now she has to be concerned about the 4th one as well, because it's the achron. Also pa'amim bayom upa'amim balayla shelo ala seder. If she saw it sometimes during the day and sometimes during the night, it's not one after another. None of them, of course, has been established for 3 times. For example, let's say she saw the first one during the day. Or that she saw the first one during the day and the last 3 at night. Or the first one at night, and the last 3 during the day. Or sholosh bezeh v'sholosh bezeh, or 3 like this and 3 like that. Chosheshes lachroino bilvad. In that case, she only has to be concerned about the last one. Okay, so that was the mechaber. Let's see the Ramah. Ha'isha sheraso chosheshes leveset hachodesh ulehaflogo. A woman that sees blood during some day of the month, she has to be. This is a woman who has no veset kavua, has to be choshesh for the veset of the chodesh and for the aflogo. Remember, we said before he doesn't mention here beinonis. Until she has established a pattern of 3. Or veset, aflogo, medal lepomim, or if it's an aflogo with 4 times. Because aflogo you need 4. Remember, the first to anchor it and then 3. So if she does not have an established pattern, she has to be choishish for the chodesh and for the afloga. Or shete'aker echad mehem, or as long, in other words, she doesn't have to be concerned about those dates anymore if one of them is uprooted. Ketzad. So he gives an example. She saw on the first day of Nisan, then on the 20th. What now? So she has pretty much 20 days in the beginning of Nisan and the 20th of Nisan. So chosheshes le'echad be'iyar. Why does she have to be choshesh on the first of year? B'tnei Rosh Chodesh Nisan, right? And now, what happens now on Rosh Chodesh Iyar? Raso be'echad be'iyar. She did see on Rosh Chodesh Iyar, or lo raso, or even if she did not see on that day of Rosh Chodesh Iyar, makes no difference. She still has to be chosheshes le'tes be'iyar. What's tes be'iyar? Shu yom chof miri'iyas yom chof sherasa. It's the 20th day from the 20th day of the month that she saw. This is the example that I was telling you before, because here he adds whether she saw or not. What do you mean? She saw on Aleph Iyar. She's now needs to be concerned with Tes Be'iyar. In other words, I still have my old and my new. Right? Raso be'alef be'iyar or lo raso b'chosheshes letes be'iyar shu yom kof meri'iyas yom kof sherasa. In other words, she has still to consider the 20th day that have elapsed from that middle, we can call it middle period, because she saw it on Rosh Chodesh Iyar, right after the 20th of Nisan. No, whatever. Actually, one second. What was it here? Chof boy, yeah, Chof Nisan, right? No, was it also Becham or Lo Rasa? But she still has to be choishes to test Be'ir Shu Chof Yom Meriya Yom Chof Sherasa, which was in the middle, because she basically had 2 periods close to each other. It's the example we spoke about earlier on. So he's concerned now about both. Rasa betes be'ir or Lo Rasa, whether she saw on the 10th of the year or not, on the 9th of the year. Chosheshes le'esri be'ir. What's the 20th of year? Shu shema kava lo veset chof lechodesh, because that's 20th of the month. Because just like she had it on 20th of the last month, she has to now look out for the 20th of the month. Shared also esri lechodesh Nisan. V'chein hi chosheshes le'olam. This is how she always has to be concerned. Ad shetikva veses echet kidyan. Until she's established a good pattern, the way it should be. Ve'azeno chosheshes le'sheni. Then she doesn't have to be concerned about the old one, Shelo Nikva, which was not established. Or, until one, she uproots one, she cancels one. However it happens. Even though she hasn't established the second. In other words, she's always going to be choshesh for a certain day, the following month, until that day is gone. How is it gone? Either she didn't see it, because she has no Vesek of war, or it's been replaced by a real Vesed. Ve'eno chosheshes levesed adilugin. The vesed of dilugin that we learned earlier on is not something to ever be choshesh that she's establishing such a vesed until she in fact has proven to have such a vesed that skips. Ketzad roso tesva benisan. She saw it on the 15th days of Nisan. Chosheshes le tesva be'ir. That's normal. Let's say she didn't see it. Lo roso betesva be'ir. Eno chosheshes le tezayin boy. She's not going to be concerned about the 6th. Why should she? But let's say she did see it on the 16th. Ro'oso tezayin bo. Chosheshes le tezayin b'sivan. Obviously, because it's that day, the same day of the month. Ve'eno chosheshes le yud zayin bo. But she doesn't have to be concerned about yud zayin bo. Why should she? But ro'oso yud zayin. But if she did see on the 17th of Tammuz, of Sivan, then you've established a dilug here. You establish a dilug between Nisan, Iyar, and Sivan that she's skipping one day. This is not a skip of 6. She's skipping one day, right? This is the dilug. Now chosheshes the yud zayin betamuz, but eno chosheshes the yud ches. I'm sorry. Here, tesva benisan chosheshes tesva beiyar, lo chosheshes benisan roso tezayin bo chosheshes le tezayin besivan ve'eno chosheshes le yud zayin bo roso. But if she did see yud zayin bo, chosheshes le yud zayin betamuz. Ve'eno chosheshes leyud ches boy, but she doesn't concern herself with the 18th. Also yud ches betamuz kovalo vesedilug, because remember she needs 4 times. I was getting a little bit confused over here. So once she's established that she sees bedilugin, she has to be concerned the following month with the next day. Kovalo vesedilugin lime chodesh. Chosheshes, and then of course from now on she has to be chosheshes to the 19th yud ches be'av. The same is true with hafloga, the dilugin. קיהן chiluk b'neim, there's no difference between them. In other words, every 28 days and every 29 days and every 30 days, right? That's the hafloga in the dilug. And the other way is a dilug in the chodesh, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th. There's no real difference between them. Rak yesh oimri ki b'dilug chodesh hare'iyo harishona min aminya. The only difference is that some say by dilug of the day of the month, you don't need 4 times. All you need is 3, because the first one is part of the 3. Like we already covered before. Let's say she saw on the 15th day of the month of Nisan, and her period continued on for 4 days. And in Iyar she had a period that lasted 3 days. And she began to see on the 17th. It was a skip. So some say that she should be choshesh ledilug uleveset shove. Because she in fact has established a pattern that she saw on the 17th of the month. Between all 3, even though she was skipping, because her period lasted a number of days, they all 3 had a common day. That was the 17th. So he brings down that some would like to say that that's an established pattern of Veset Shove. Even though it's skipped, it's really a Veset Shove that on the 17th she will see. So some want to say that. The Yeshomim she'en kan Veset Shove. Some say, of course, this is not a real, typical Veset Shove. Why? Because the whole Chiltomid Achat Chilasa, you're always going to go after the beginning of the Riyah. The beginning of the Riyah is what really misses. That's where you count from. The Chen Iker, and that's the Halacha. That you always go by the beginning, even though it could last 3, 4, 5 days, and some of those days may coincide with older days. Nonetheless, the way to calculate is always the beginning, when that date is. Okay, that covers Sifyud Gimel. It's a Shem next week, Sifyud